Well, this item was put on tonight so we could discuss and for council to give direction to staff about the potential renewal of the temporary sales taxes. That includes the 1 cent that goes to the general fund and the half-cent for capital improvements. These two taxes will sunset in March of 27, and both are very crucial to the operations of the city. The 1 cent general fund funds general city operations, which are most functions that are not utility related. That includes police and fire. And the half-cent CIP tax funds projects, so think streets, roads, buildings, parks, etc. The three pieces of information that we kind of need to proceed are potential timing for the election. Changes to state law limit the number of options the city has for elections in the next year. Limits it to only 5 different dates. I'd like to know about the sales tax amount, if there's a desire to increase the percentage or hold it constant for either one. And then specific to the half-cent CIP tax, is there a direction or focus that those dollars could go to that council would like to see? So if you want to dedicate them all to, say, roads or a portion thereof. We put together a couple of slides. This information was included in the packet. One is a sales tax history for the City of Edmond in 1973, the 1 cent permanent tax for general fund, with another half-cent for temporary was added in 77. Let's go ahead and skip forward a couple of slides for the last 25 years. So since 2000, you can see that we've added a park tax, a public safety, police and fire tax, a permanent tax, and then a permanent CIP tax. There was also a special tax for the Public Safety Center, which was later on voted on and changed to the half-cent CIP tax that we're discussing today. And then if you want to, next slide is a comparative for the region. These are all the communities in the MSA. So the range is we're the lowest at 8.25%, all the way to Piedmont, which is 9.85%, with generally the range average being around 8.7. So with that, happy to answer any questions or listen to the discussion from here.
Who wants to get this started? I'd love to. Go right ahead.
You know, first of all, let me say the sales tax, the renewal, is, I don't know what the word, imperative, critical, I don't know which word best describes that. If we look at, and Randy, can you tell me again, when was 2%, when did that become the general fund? What year? Was it like 77?
Yeah.
1977, 2%. Now, remember, sales tax is computed off of total sales revenue, right? And so hopefully we're growing our base and our revenue also, so that same sales tax is more dollars. I get that. But since 1977, I want to look at this in total transparency. We always talk about wanting to be transparent up here. Okay, well let's be transparent. 1977, we've had the same funding mechanism of 2% of the general fund. What's the general fund? Police, fire, parks, rec, general, the city staff, quite a bit.
And Mr. Frame, let's make it real clear. If you don't know, 2/3 of that goes to police and fire.
2/3 of police and fire. And so the way I want to approach this, I want everybody to look at it. Look at it, present value of money, not future value where interest is compounded, but what is money worth in the future? Okay? Let's take both of them. The half-cent is roughly, that brings us roughly $12 million. Okay? Over a 10-year period, first of all, do you know any business that would lock themselves into a 10-year period of time that this is going to be my rate? I don't care what it is. Homeowners, widget sales, this is it. But this is government. I get it. It's different. But I want to think about it, too, from some business principles. We look at this, and $12 million in 10 years, let's just throw in 3% inflation compounded. You could say that's high. I don't know. Fed loves it to be 2. Seems like we can't always get there. So 3% compounded, that $12 million is now worth $7.3 million in that 10th year. So no, we're not buying goods and services with the same purchasing power. It has shrunk dramatically. Let's take the 1 cent, it brings in around $24 million. With 3%, again, over 10 years, at that 10th year, that's now equal to 17.8 million, not 24. At 5%, it's worth 14.7. So my question to everybody as we think about this going forward, is it a sustainable business plan for the City of Edmond to lock in, since 1977, the same exact sales tax rate? I'm not going to give you my opinion. You can probably guess it. I'll let you think about that. I mean, I can tell you from a business standpoint, there's not a business in the world, well, they wouldn't be around long, would they? Let's also look at it from the standpoint, why would any business, let alone a governmental entity, look at a sales tax rate knowing, because we've seen the numbers, in 2 years, that revenue does not support our needs at the current level of service? 2 years. So is that being transparent for me to ask you to renew exactly as is and then somewhere down the road go, oops, we need more? When right now, sitting here today, we might already know that we need more? Just something to think about as a city. That strategic plan is important. But that's for the city. So before I turn this over to everybody else, let's look at it from Billy and Jane. Let's look at it from the average citizen standpoint. How does this impact them? I mean, we all feel pain of taxes. I get it. I keep telling people it's my generation, actually the one below, probably, that any tax is a bad one. I don't know how we got there. I think it trickles down from federal government. But if we look at $12 million, and remember, that's a half cent. So let's say you increase sales tax. This is just a hypothetical. Let's say we increased half a cent, quarter to the CIP, quarter to the general fund. That's $12 million total. Let's take the voters, somewhere around 65,000 voters. That's $184 a year paying threshold to them. $184. Divide that with me by 12. Get about $15 a month. How about daily? It's 51 cents. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about investing 51 cents a day to our city. Now, we don't have to. We can wait till we're desperate. But golly, I hate to think that my city only does things when we're desperate. Got to have a little foresight in all of this. So, so what is it? How does it put us in a competitive position? We're kind of in the middle. We're like at Oklahoma City. So all those people that are lower than us at that point. So you're going to somebody wants to purchase a $500 item at Walmart, and they live in Moore, and they can save 1/4 cent on the sales tax. They save about $2.75, and they burn $3.50 in gasoline. I mean, it's not a threshold that gives us any great competitive position to be able to stand up here and say, guess what, we're in last place. Yeah, well, we're going to be in last place on a lot of other things if we don't look at this realistically from a revenue standpoint. I thought it was interesting, this is rough, but projection. If that sales tax, if the 1 cent did not get renewed, what would that mean? 53, probably in the neighborhood of 53 or 50 out of 186 police officers, 38 out of 143 fire department people. I don't think that's where we want to go. I don't think we want to turn 3-minute response time by our first responders into 9 or 10. Is that a good plan? So I say that with some passion, and I'm sorry, but it's passion that I believe in. It's passion that I want all of you to have, because we have to look at this sales tax with a little bit more of an eye than just saying, it's a tax I have to pay again. Well, I bet you all of those other cities listed up there, or at least all but 1 or 2, also have property tax that goes to their municipality. We don't. Okay, that's cool. But if that's fact, we can't be last place in sales tax either. Thanks.
I think well, I'm not going to, I agree with Mr. Frame. I'm going to be much shorter than that so you all don't have to sweat that. I'm for extending these sales tax. I'm for considering raising them at some point. I think a deal's a deal. We asked for 10 years. The voters voted for 10 years, and I think we ought to stick with that. They're beyond important to our city. I hear people often say Edmond special. Edmond is special, and these 2 taxes will keep Edmond special. But we can do better. I think we ought to consider in the future, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, perhaps raising each of these a half a point, maybe sooner. I don't know. I'm open to that discussion. I've had citizens tell me, well, why don't we have a MAPS like Oklahoma City and have a sales tax specially designated for roads? I'm happy to consider that. I think that's important. I think it's very important, and I would support that. So, Mr. Mayor, I believe part of the question on the table is when to do this, and I think we ought to do it sooner rather than later. I think we ought to try to do it in the month of November. Get that on the books, get it passed. Everybody can breathe easy. They're on the books for 10 more years. And then if we want to evaluate where we need to go in 2 or 3 or 4 years, we can. So I'm for these extensions, and I'd like to do it in November.
Ms. Murdoch-Nichols?
I'm for, it's no question up here that we know the seriousness of getting these sales tax renewed, and as we've made clear, we're very committed to analyzing our finances, making sure that we're being good stewards and carrying on that legacy. So I agree we need to do it sooner to get those extended, and I agree with Councilmember Moore. Perhaps we in the future look at what it might look like to raise those, and but for now, I'm interested in putting it on a ballot to extend, and I think November would be my preference as well.
Glad I got to go last and listen to what you guys all said first. I'm for extending these as well. I think that's probably obvious that we really need this to run our city. I think we should renew them at the same time, or put them on the ballot at the same time. I'm for the 10-year window, like Councilman Moore said. I think my perspective on this is a little more from the capital improvements. I served on the CIP advisory board before I was in this seat, and so got to see firsthand just what all we were able to do with that tax that's been renewed a few times now. And we've done some really neat stuff as a city with that, sort of like MAPS. This isn't a thing that we like invest in ourselves, and so we've done things like, there's a whole list in the packet here, but Pelican Bay right now is being paid for that. All the trails that have been done, Edmond Center Court Partnership, YMCA, Kicking Bird. I think over the last 20 years, it's been $175 million towards roads and infrastructure improvements, $62 million towards public safety. So just a lot of stuff. And when you think about kind of the neat things that we have in our town, or some of just the foundational things that we have in our town, they were paid for by that capital improvements sales tax. And so it's important to me that we renew that. When we had the GEO bond election, a lot of the feedback that I heard was, we don't want a property tax. We would prefer a sales tax, because then people can decide, they can control their spending if they're on a fixed income. They have the choice of what they want to, how much they want to spend. And so I've been thinking about that ever since that all went down. I think the other thing we hear a lot, all of us here, I think, is the roads, right? The infrastructure needs to be improved. We need to try to get ahead of our development a little bit better, if we had money to do that. We know there's some intersections that are struggling that are going to need to be expanded. We know those are expensive to do. And so what I would like to see is to renew the CIP tax. Right now we put, out of the CIP funding, we put about $4.5 million a year towards roads. And then a couple, like maybe an intersection here or there over the years. We had a pavement study that came through capital improvements about 3, 4, 5 months ago that said it was a study done on all of our streets around town. They drove around with these trucks with laser scanners on them, looked at the condition of all of our pavement in town, and they said that we need to be investing about 10 to 15 million a year in just maintaining the roads we have. Okay, so we're currently doing about 4.5, so we need to roughly double that or a little more, just to keep up with the roads that we have. We heard, like I said, we know intersections cost a lot. They're costing, 10 to 40 million, depending on the intersection. Everything's expensive to do, and like Phil said, the price of things has outpaced, and inflation has outpaced the growth that we've seen in sales tax. And so, so what I would like to see is that we focus the CIP tax on road improvements, on that road maintenance, and on infrastructure and intersection improvements. If we just do the math, we think we need 10 to 15 million a year over 10 years is 100 to 150 million a year. We know we have a list of probably 100 million of intersections and things that need to be done, so we're looking at 200 to 250 a year. If we just renew the one we have, I think it's, I didn't write down the math. It's a half a cent over 10 years, 120 million a year. So if we want to cover all the things that we see in front of us, we really should increase CIP a little bit to cover that. If we want to do that today, if we want to do that later, I don't feel super strongly about that, but I think if the citizens' expectations are, we don't want to do that through property tax like Oklahoma City and most cities do, but we do have an expectation of high-quality roads. We have an expectation that our intersections have capacity to handle things. We've got to have a way to do that, right? And so I think we need to look at trying to align that CIP percentage or the expected dollar amount as closely as we can to the road dollars that we think we're going to need to cover over the next 10 years. That's kind of where I'm at with that. In terms of timing on renewals, we do want to, we try to not conflict with Edmond Public School bonds. We try not to conflict with other things we know are coming. There was some news about a jail tax maybe coming, so I would support an earlier, November ballot measure on these two items. I think that makes sense to kind of get ahead of some of those things that may be coming. It is important that we get these approved to secure our future as a city, like Councilman Moore said, so that's kind of where I stand on it.
Me too, on the earlier. I used to not be quite as early, but I think we do have to get ahead of some things. So I think November, if we can all think that education process, communication process to citizens of Edmond in whatever it is, meetings and groups or whatever, if we can get that accomplished, I think it makes sense. I think we can do that in 60 days, but as long as we're not pushing that. But just a crazy idea, Mr. Watterson. Add 6 million to 4.5, and what? Lo and behold, you get 10.5 million. if we could dedicate that, that would be our Streets and Roads Maps program. So I think it's a great idea.
And I forgot to mention one thing. I think the job of the Capital Improvements Projects Advisory Board is to help us as a council prioritize how that money is prioritized and spent. And so I would look to that board to help us prioritize kind of the order of the things that we might want to do on the list, and then the order to help us decide what we might want to do on that.
Okay, so now, Mr. Watterson, I'll remind you that I'm going last.
Go for it.
And I will tell you that when I was running for mayor, it was on fiscal transparency and getting us so that everyone in this room, everyone in this city could see what was going on. And we've already made some really good progress, and most of that credit, I think, goes to staff for reducing our budget this year by $40 million. We've asked the city manager to find us another $1 million by next week, and I think he's there. I hope he's there. We do not have the reporting mechanism quite in place the way we would like it, but we've got a budget task force in place that is working on all of that. And the council members up here, through individual discussions with me, have twisted my arm because I was saying I don't think we should touch this until we get what I wanted to show the city so that we could see exactly what we're spending on everything. But understanding the realities of it and the progress we've made, I recognize that we have got to get ahead of the other issues that are coming at us. There is a school bond election in February. The county has said they want to bring out a vote for a sales tax for the jail in April. We're running out of dates because if we take this to the voters and we stumble on either one of these two questions, we will have to run 3 times as fast just to work our way through it. And you heard me say, as Mr. Frame was talking earlier, that penny sales tax that goes to the general fund, 2/3 of that is going directly to police and fire. This is critical just to keep the doors open, the lights on. And when we talk about that half-cent CIP tax, as you heard Mr. Watterson say, right now we have 10 different things we can use that for on capital improvement projects. I'm all for stripping out 9 of those 10 and just saying it's just about roads. Because if you listen to anybody in this city, what do they want to complain about? Roads. They want to talk about congestion. They want to talk about traffic. That would give us a big head start to play catch up on that piece where right now we're spending $4.5 million and we're roughly $8 million short. I never thought I'd be sitting here with you all this evening saying November sounds like a heck of a time. I know it's short. It's going to take a lot of work from all of us. It's going to take a lot of work from citizens in this city to make everyone understand that because we don't have any bonds that are helping us run the city, because we don't have ad valorem taxes built in the way a lot of states do for municipalities, we're reliant on the sales tax. And, I'm just going to say, I don't remember the last time I thought about what sales tax was before I went out to eat or before I went and bought a new shirt. And a lot of people said that during the jail bond election, is we'd rather put it into sales tax than property tax because then everybody pays it. So I think that, the direction ought to be to staff, let's focus on getting what we need on an agenda to move forward with this in November at the current rates. I do not want to increase either one of these taxes until we can show our citizens exactly how we're spending their money in detail. That's a fair statement. If we need to come back in 2 or 3 years and address the general fund piece, that's great. If we need to come back in 2 or 3 years and adjust the CIP piece, that's great. If we want to come back in 2 or 3 years and make the general fund piece permanent, I think that would be appropriate. I think it would, but I think we need to make sure that everyone understands that we've got our ducks lined up and we're creating that vision for the future, and it starts right here, right now. So, what do we need to do?
Well, we need to extend those taxes.
And I think the date we're looking at is November 18th. Is that right? Of 2025? Okay. It's an important date for all of us to remember.
The city's bond counsel and financial advisor are here also, if anybody has questions for them. I don't want them to be forgotten.
Anyone have any questions for the bond counsel? Oh, someone should have at least one question. Alan shouldn't be sitting out there waiting on us. I really don't have any for him. I think it's more about getting these things renewed. November, what would the date be? November
18th, November 18th.
Assuming we're going to have a little bit more discussion, or let's have it right now on how much. We got the when figured out, I think.
Well, I've said it. I'd like to keep them right where they are for now, because I think we need to show a commitment to the citizens that we're moving this in the right direction with everything else we're doing. That doesn't mean we won't come back in a year or two.
If you got it, well, I feel weird sitting here talking about transparency and saying, hey, we're going to renew them, but then I'm going to come back and tell you I need more, okay? And if I can tell you that we're going to that we need $5.5 to $6 million in streets and roads, and that is exactly what it's dedicated for, that's what we want to do. That's what we need to do. And I think we're playing games with it to say, well, we're going to renew it like it is right now, but then maybe we're going to come back and ask you for some more. We're asking for 1/4 cent. That's, that's not anything that's going to make you choke when you buy dinner tomorrow.
No, it's not, but I'm looking at the realities of it, Mr. Frame, and that's, we've got to show the citizens that we've got this under control, and we're not there. And there's a lot of people out there that are saying that. And I just want to make sure that we can at least continue and then say, this is exactly what we're short. I don't have a problem with that at all.
I agree, except that you know where we're short. You know we're at least a minimum of 1/4 cent, so don't sit and tell everybody that we're okay right now, and then we'll come back in a little while and tell you we're short. If we're short now, we're short 2 years down the road. In fact, we're further short 2 years down the road than we are right now for 1/4 cent. And if I'm telling you this is all, it's where I disagree. I agree, but with Preston, we don't give CIP the choice of where that 5.5, that 6 million, that's where it's going, and it's going there now. I mean, how is that confusing? How is that not, credible?
So what I'll say is, the problem with CIP to date is there's 10 different things it can be used on. And if you say, let's deal with the street issue, and then if we want to do something different, if we want to do a maps thing that's more maps creative than what we're doing currently, let's figure out what that is.
Mr. Mayor, I've been on CIP. When council asks, when council directs, that's what it's spent on. And I'm saying 1/4 cent, $5.5 to $6 million is going to be spent on streets and roads. We need to get to 10.5 million, and you and I both know it's not there right now. So I can't wish it there. We've got to do something to get it there. And wait in 2 years, we need more than that in 2 years. because we're behind the game.
Well, pardon me. I don't disagree with you, Councilman, that we need to raise that. I do disagree with you that I'm not playing a game here, as you suggested just a second ago. I'm a firm believer that we gave our word to the citizens 10 years ago, 9, approved these taxes, and we're now asking them to do it again. And I think they'll say yes. I'm confident they'll say yes to both taxes to a 10-year extension.
Agreed.
And then I think, I mean, what are we? This August is about burned up. We've got September, October, November, then we vote. And I think the citizens, if we come back to them in a reasonable amount of time and say, look, we're asking you to increase the sales tax on your purchases, I think you'll do it. I have confidence that the citizens of Edmond want the best. And I just want to level with them that we're asking them tonight to renew the two taxes. And it's not a game, because I'll sit right here and be the first to say, folks, we need to raise it again. Let's raise it. But I think tonight, I'm in favor of both extensions at the current level.
Maybe games was too strong of a word.
Pardon?
Games was too strong of a word. But when we know one thing and we ask another, I don't call that total transparency.
I think I'm a pretty transparent guy. I think I'm a pretty transparent guy. I've made it clear I'm for extending these taxes. And I will come back here in a year or 2 or 3, I may not even be up here, but I'll be standing on a street corner saying that, you know, we need to raise this CIP another ½ point. But I just think in fairness to the citizens, we leveled with them 10 years ago, and we need to level with them tonight. We don't have enough money for CIP. We don't. But I think it's fair to look you in the eye tonight and say, vote yes on these in November, and you'll see us back here at some other point asking to raise it ½ cent. Mayor, you said you wanted to get the last word, button this up.
I don't know. He didn't get the last necessarily. Go ahead. But yeah, I'll let him have the last. Let me interject one more thing. I mean, I just think this is so critical. We know the need. We all want it. We don't want it in 2 years, do we? We don't want to plan and resurface more roads in 2 years. We've been told. We have a study, and it shows you need $5.5 to $6 more million per year. If not, you need more than that, because what happens? The core and the base fall apart. I don't see, I'm getting lost in how that's difficult for any of the citizens to grasp and all of them to jump on board with. And yes, I can say, well, just renew it like it is, and then I'll tell you in a year or 2 years that we need more. Well, I guess I'm okay with that. I would certainly approve that versus going backwards. But I just get a little mixed up in the logic that I'm not being credible to anybody by telling them that now as opposed to 2 years.
Mr. Frame, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but what I'm saying is we need to know exactly what we do need. We need more than just what we're talking about for roads. We need to get to the point that we can say, this is what we want. Because the last thing I'd hate to do is increase this $0.25 cent or ½ cent in November and turn around 6 months or a year later and go, oh, we missed it by ½ cent. I want to know what the number is. I want to do the right thing And I want to do it in a way that we're all comfortable, not just us, but the citizens are comfortable that we did the work to say this is how much we need. And I'm not there. I'm not at that point because I don't know what that number is yet.
I don't either. I would agree. I would take overs and unders with you that it's more than a quarter. So if you get a quarter, you're still going to need more, and you're going to realize that. So I mean,
that's where I am. I want to get what we're working on done.
Yeah.
So that we can say, here it is, and this is what else we need. Because I want to get, it might be 3/8, it might be a half.
I'm just
I want to
saying
get the number
quarter's
right
not-
when we go back and ask.
A quarter's not overshooting. I promise you
No,
that.
it's not.
Yeah.
But then you ask for a quarter, and then you come back in a year when you figure it out, and what are they going to say? The voters are going to say, oh, here they come again. I don't want that.
Well, that might happen when you say, I'm okay with renewing it as it is, but now I need a quarter. I don't know that one. That's the same thing, just different numbers.
I think if we do it right, the citizens of Edmond, the voters, will do it right. I just want to get the number right.
I do too, except that I sit here and know the number's wrong. Okay? So do we vote that, yeah, let's just go out and tell them we know the number's wrong, but that's what we're going to do again for a while?
Well, I don't think that's the message.
Well, but that's the actuality of it. Whether it's the message or not, that's what it is.
The actuality of it is exactly what Mr. Moore said. This is what we agreed to 10 years ago, and we're coming back to the voters now and saying, we did what you said, and now we want to renew it again for 10 more years, and then we can finish the reforms we're working on, the transparency we're working on to say this is what we need. It's a different approach. It's a different approach, and we know we're going to have to come back. I don't have a problem saying that. I don't have a problem saying that to anybody. But we've got to get where we're at today renewed so that we can keep the lights on while we're figuring out what we need next.
And Mr. Mayor, just for what it's worth, at your suggestion, and I was happy to do it, I went out and I had a chat with our business community at the chamber. Ms. Jordan, I see her in the back of the room there. Meetings with her go well if you show up on time and say yes a lot. But I had a very good conversation with her, and I told her how important these are. She understands that. She's supportive of this effort. But when I ask her about making these permanent or perhaps raising one, and she can speak for herself. Like I said, she's in the back of the room. She advised me that it would be wise to renew these for the 10-year period, and then if you want to come back and ask for a special tax for a special purpose, similar to MAPS in Oklahoma City, I believe she'd be supportive of that, and I think the business community would be supportive of that. Ms. Jordan, you can speak for yourself if you want to come up here and tell me how our conversation went. But that's my recollection. Mr. Mayor, would you give her the opportunity to say something
Ms. Jordan,
about that?
if you'd like to speak to us, we'd love a little input here, I think.
Hi, Sherry Jordan, CEO for the Edmond Chamber. Please excuse my attire. I did not know I was coming up here tonight for sure to speak to you. I've been out in the rain with my daughter all day shopping, stimulating the economy as it would be.
You were shopping in Edmond, right?
I was.
That sales tax.
That's right, sales tax. Yes, Mr. Moore and I did have a discussion about this. The Chamber's always, we've historically supported all of the sales tax renewal elections. We've put our funds to good use to promote them and get the word out to the city. And I've talked to my board of directors about this, and they're in favor of extending the sales tax and getting that to a vote as soon as possible. There's varying opinions on if we should make it permanent, if we should increase it. I think that the reasonable thing to do, in the opinion of the people I've talked to, would be to just approve what we have and then to come back with a specific tax dedicated to roads or whatever it is that you guys feel would be appropriate. So,
thank you.
Well, there's been a lot of conversation, and I think that's healthy and fine. But I do hear some things we are agreeing on. I am interested in the November 18th date for asking the voters of Edmond if they are interested in extending the sales tax that exists right now. So I'm interested in that, and I would make a motion to that end if you're ready, but you've got the floor, Mr. Mayor.
I will entertain that motion. Do I have a second?
Well, I do want to ask our city manager and city attorney, do you have clarity on what we're asking you? I know there was a lot of conversation.
Well, I would ask Alan to confirm that if November 18th is the day, we need to call the election the next meeting, September 8th. Correct? So there's a proposed motion in your action needed section.
Mr. Mayor, I have a motion. A motion directing city staff to prepare all documentation necessary for renewing the City of Edmond sales tax ordinance of 2011 and/or the expiring portion of the Edmond sales tax ordinance, and an election to be held on November 18th, 2025.
I have a motion
I'll make a second.
and a second.
Mayor, just to clarify my understanding for the minutes, I'm understanding that you're directing that action that to renew the current general fund and capital improvement taxes at their current rates for 10 years at the November 18th election, with the capital improvement tax to be dedicated to roads and traffic improvements. Is that correct?
That's how I'd like to see it, that we strip out the other 9 and just focus that half cent on streets. If that's acceptable with
I think that makes sense. We still have the 2000 CIP fund as well, in addition to the 2017.
I mean, if we just dedicated this half cent to the streets, that'd still leave you the other tax for other items still in the list of things that you can be used for. So you want to modify your motion a little bit?
Mr. Clerk, would you read my motion?
I understood it to be to move to direct staff to add necessary agenda items to the next agenda, to call elections to renew both the current general fund and capital improvement taxes at their current rates for 10 years on November 18th of this year, with the capital improvement tax dedicated to roads/traffic improvements. Sorry, I may have misspoke. I would defer to the city attorney.
Is that, Ms. Sawyer? Do you have anything beyond that?
All right, I have a motion.